Hey, welcome to Bear Mountain. Today is April 16th, middle of April, and we've got some chores that we normally have to do this time of year. Our mums just came in from King's Mums. Our tomatoes need to be potted up, so we're just kind of working some greenhouse stuff today. Okay, so the first thing we got to do is just make ourselves a batch of potting up mix. We use the Pro Mix BX, and then what we do is we add some extra little things to it, mostly worm castings and a little bit of biochar, and that's good enough for our potting up. And so we're just going to fill this bin up real quick. Exciting video. The thing we add is what we've got in here is maybe about a cubic foot of the Pro Mix, and so we're going to add, each one of these scoops is about a quart or so of worm castings. This is from our own worms. There might be a few worm eggs in here, but that's not a big deal for this stuff being. We'll put about 2.5 scoops in. And this has already got biochar in it, and it's already got rock dust in it, so it's got all the minerals plus all the good stuff that the worms provided. And so we'll just mix this up. So putting that amount of worm castings in probably amounts to about a 1 to 2% worm castings on volume basis, and that's enough just for basically potting things up. So the nice thing about the Pro Mix is it's already sifted, so the big oversized material is out of it, and it's already got a fair amount of perlite in it for aerations purposes, so it should be pretty good for transplanting up. Okay, this is our King's Mums. Now, we ordered these way back
1st of January.
1st of January, right when they first opened up their store for the year for ordering. So this is before all this pandemic stuff started going on. And
we also ordered with the idea that we would have losses of our original mums. Not the case.
So we got roughly 30 cuttings, and we've got kind of a mix of things. Some of them are like spiders, and some of them are what you call regular incurves.
So we got some that are new.
And we got some new. I got to get rid of this styrofoam stuff.
Yeek.
Okay, these guys are potted up in what they call Ellie pots, which are kind of a porous, decomposable membrane. I think it's somewhat of a paper product, and that's where they rooted all of their mums into it. And you can see these guys look pretty good, but you know, they're definitely through growing in this. But before we put these guys in the hoop house, we want them to get a better established root system, and that's why we're going to pot them up. And we do this every year. We pot them up for about a month. Like I said, today's the middle of April, so we're probably looking at getting these guys actually in the hoop house in the ground sometime after Mother's Day. These guys are going to grow fast. You don't need to take any of this off, because it's decomposable. The roots will grow through it, and we just plant them fairly deep in the 4-inch or 3-inch pots here, and that's all there is to it. And make sure we put a label on it, what it is, because all mums pretty much look alike. So once you start mixing them up, you might have an issue if you don't have each pot labeled. And that's the chore. Got 30 of those guys to do. Okay, we got the mums finished, and now our next job is the tomatoes. These are the tomatoes that are going to go into our garden for this summer, and we've got a whole bunch of different varieties. Some of them are slicers, some of them are Roma types or paste types. A couple of cherry tomatoes like the black cherry right there, and Amish paste is a paste tomato. And then we also have some eggplant too that we got started. being that this is the middle of April, it's still too cold for us in Western Oregon to put these out. Our nighttime temps are still going down into the low 40s and sometimes high 30s. So we're going to pot these guys up in, which used to be rose pots years ago. But this is about a 6-inch deep pot, about maybe 2 inches or so in width across 2x2 square, maybe a little bit more, maybe like 2.5. And it's an open weave bottom, so we're going to plant these guys in here and grow them on for about another 4 weeks. And by that point, being mid-May, it should be perfect time to stick them in the garden. So this is probably the first time in a long time we've raised this many tomatoes, and we're going to be drying them a lot. Be sure to check out our video on the new food dryer we got. This is going to be hopefully a lot of the feed stuff that goes into that, because when you dry like a paste tomato, it really brings up the flavor, and you're taking away a lot of the cooking time to make a nice sauce. So and you can make the sauce when you want it, and it's just simply being kept in a dry, dehydrated state, so it works out well. Anyway, you can dry the paste tomatoes. Any of the beefy tomatoes that have a lot of meat dry really well, and that's what we're trying to get into this year. So let's start with, let's go to the Amish paste. What the heck? We're talking about paste tomatoes. Okay, we started these not in soil blocks, but we started them in 6-packs. Basically what we did is we knew we were going to pot these guys up, so we didn't want to try to go to a 4-inch block. So what we did is we started these guys in, the equivalent of a 1.5-inch block, but it's a plastic tray, obviously. And we'll see, to get it out, what we do is just kind of squeeze a little bit on the bottom of the tray. Try not to bust the plastic. This is pretty robust plastic, so we get several years worth of use. You can see the roots are just perfect, but they're starting to, they reach in the end here and they're starting to wrap themselves around. This is pretty much starting the second true leaf stage, so this is about the perfect time to bump these guys up. All right, set this guy aside just for a second. Okay, so we're going to do is we're going to plant these guys deep. Some people would say, oh, just pot it up to right here, but actually what we're going to do is we're going to pot it up to about here, to those first set of cotyledon leaves, and this extra stem will then grow roots, and it'll make the plant even bigger. The thing about tomatoes is when the deeper you plant them, the more roots you get. So the idea here is that we want to pack them in fairly firm, not try to cram them in, but we want to get them in fairly deep. As you can see, we put it right up to the leaves. Now this may look a little like extreme, but what it's going to do is all that extra stem is going to perform more roots, plus the roots that are already at the bottom. So this thing should have a really good set of roots when we put it in the ground and be ready to take off. Now, how are we going to know when it's ready to take off? Well, weather is part of it, but let's assume the weather is decent. One of the things we'll notice is we'll start to see roots down at the bottom. Now we're going to leave this in what's called an open weave bottom tray. Pardon me for not having my props ready, but this is what we mean by a weave bottom tray, and it's pretty open. And we'll put these guys in here, and that way the bottom will air prune. So when we set this anywhere we set it, there'll be at least, an 1/8 of an inch gap between whatever it's set on and that. So that'll help keep the roots from growing into something. And then basically what we're going to do is just fill out the tray with these guys, pot all these guys up. And then, as always, we finish off with putting on the worm tea, and then in a few days we'll start our K&F treatments for growing, and hopefully we'll end up with really good plants. Okay, so we're finishing up the potting of the tomatoes here, and those will be done as soon as I get finished with this aspect. Just wanted to kind of wrap things up today and talk about you know, how we bumping these things up, you know, and how we kind of we got some worm tea. I did a video on that before, I think in one of our previous things, and explained that we used the worm castings in water and kind of let it steep for a while, and then we just use a watering can, and this puts a lot of good micronutrients as well as biology around the roots of the plants, and it's just a way to get them over transplant shock and get them started. So we're going to make sure we give these guys a real good soak because the potting mix was a little bit on the dry side, but not too bad. And if you want to check out any of the videos on the mums that we did last year, we kind of went really in depth in terms of doing our own cuttings, plus the bump ups of what we bought. This year, we're not doing, because of the way the pandemic is going, we're not going to do many cuttings of our own, other than some, probably going to do some replacement things of varieties we didn't buy that maybe we need to bump up a few more of them. But it's going to be a little lower key this year because we just don't know how the market's going to be come this fall. However, we should have a really good crop with these guys, plus what we have overwintered from last year.
The overwintered ones look really good.
Yeah, we had a nice mild winter, and so far they're really growing pretty good for starting out. We didn't lose as many as we normally do, which is a good thing. Thinking about any other questions, be sure to check out some of our other videos. We'll put links in the show descriptions, everything I'm talking about. And want to thank you guys for watching today. And this is just something, you know, that we have to do this time of year. Just wanted to kind of, you know, show you one task that we do. Didn't take too long. Took about an hour probably to do both the tomatoes and the mums. So
we're ready to go.
We're ready to go. So thanks for watching today. Be sure to check out our other videos. Subscribe if you haven't. And have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.